Hi guys, Rob from Royal Balls. First things first, I finally got my t-shirt from Richard Barrow, Predator BP. Some of you may follow him. I'll put the links in the description below. But I do a lot of collaboration videos with Richard, so many thanks for the t-shirt. Proud to wear it. This is my first video. I've just got the t-shirt. What a Christmas present. Okay guys, today we're going to talk about an update on my pairings. The last breeding video that I did, I showed that one of the snakes was in shed and I had to wait to put the male in. So I've got some clips of that. After she shed, I put the male in out of schedule. All my other pairings have been done earlier in the month. I'll show you just up here how I do multiple pairings. This season I've got a number of dual pairings, one male to two females. I have done one male to three females, and I have some experience with multiple pairings. Inevitably, when you do recessive projects and you breed your own hets, you end up with a bunch of hets that you have to hold back, and typically you'll be putting one prime male to all of those hets to prove out your projects. That's at the bottom here. I'm not doing that this season. I have no need to do that. But if you want more detail on how I do my pairings, you can always watch the video that I did in conjunction with Richard. Again, links in the description below where I describe my multiple pairings. But for this video, I've just got a couple of females and one male, both of which locked up. And then I had my problematic het lavender pairing, where you'll see that I've actually changed something in the tubs to stimulate the females to breed, and I think I may have got a lock this time around from the male. So that's gone very well. So we'll take a look at the pairings first. So this is the pairing we were going to do last week, but the pied was in shed. You can see she's now shed and made a real mess of her tub. It's all wet. And there's the shed in there. So it's time for the male to go in. Let's do it. Here's the male, the pastel pied male. Hello. And in he goes. We'll just mark that down on our breeding board. A black X there to indicate the pairing, and we'll check later. There it is guys, within just a few hours of going in the tub. These guys are locked up. Nice. So these guys are finished now. You can come out and be fed tomorrow, and we can clean her tub, and she can also be fed tomorrow. Okay, we have a lock there. This is the one that didn't lock last time, but the Silky Way just shed, so I put them together out of sequence and they are locked. Great news. And these guys are still at it. They've been locked for a good 12 hours now. Excellent. Getting the job done. Yep, these guys are finished. He can come out. We'll have a look at the het lavenders. And for the two reluctant het lavenders, what I've done is to put these guys on substrate. Let you go, she's cooling. And we'll see if that encourages them to have a go. This is the male. There's just one more check I want to do here on him. So just one more thing that I need to do with the male. There's a hemipene, but I don't see any sperm plugs. Now we're starting to see some more encouraging behaviour from this het lavender. Definite ball hugging there. She's looking thick and fat, even though I haven't seen a lock. These guys here, well, they're laid on top of each other for a change, but no lock. I did see last night they were lining up, but they don't appear to have locked. We'll lead them to it and see what happens. I can't actually see if this is a proper lock because he's protecting it. But just the fact that he's actually protecting it, you can see his tail tucked underneath the female there. I don't want to disturb them, but this is the het lavenders, and this is the most promising that I've actually seen them since I put the female onto substrate. So there's a little tip. Change something in the tub and switch them on. So this could be a lock right there. For you guys that are new to the channel, I keep my snakes out here slightly differently to the way you're probably accustomed to in the US or in the UK, in that I'm out here in the tropics. It's very warm. We don't use heat mats. My snake room here is at an ambient temperature. At the moment I'm cooling for the breeding season, and it is the wet season outside, so I'm cooling to about 28 degrees, which is about 84 Fahrenheit. If I heat gun my snakes, you'll see that they are sitting at about 29 centigrade, which is about 86 Fahrenheit, which is a perfect temperature for the breeding season. Absolutely perfect. So no heat mats in the tubs, there's no heat gradient in the tubs, and some of you have observed that number one, my rack systems are very simple. There's no heat mats in them, they're just tubs, and I use a variety of tubs. My hatchlings go in these Daiso tubs here, which are actually the size of a shoebox. One shoe would probably fit in them. My hatchlings do just perfect in there up until they're about 150 to 200 grams. Then I move them into a tub of about this size, and you'll notice there's a paper liner. I don't use substrate here in the tropics. Ambient temperature is perfect, and ambient humidity at 80% is also perfect. And if I find if I use substrate, the substrate actually gets mouldy very, very quickly. It gets too damp when the snakes pee in it. So I like to use paper to keep everything as dry as possible, because 80% ambient humidity in the atmosphere is just perfect for these snakes. Don't need to add any humidity. So I keep things really simple. The tubs are not very big because the snakes don't need to thermoregulate by moving from front to back of the tub away from the heat mat, because there is no heat mat. I use ceramic water bowls, which remain a few degrees cooler than the rest of the tub. Typically if the snakes need to cool down, I very rarely observe them doing it because the ambient temperature in the room is absolutely perfect. But if they do need to cool down, they can wrap the water bowl and actually reduce their temperature by a few degrees. Typically females, when they're building follicles in the breeding season, will bowl wrap, but my males hardly ever do. So that's my grow on size. and I use a system of tubs. Again, very simple, just a paper liner. That's the next size up, and I will grow snakes on here in this size of tub to over 1 kilo. And my adults actually live in something that many of you would probably consider to be too small. It's this size of tub here. There is no depth from front to back, because there doesn't need to be. There's no heat gradient in here. I'm not using a heat tape at one end, so I've got a hot end and a cool end. I don't do that. I'm controlling the ambient temperature here in the room, which remains very, very stable and at a perfect temperature for the snakes. So I have actually found that the snakes prefer a tub of this size. I do have larger size tubs. I have a tub, for instance, which is this size, and again I use a paper liner. I have tried putting my ball pythons into a tub this size. This is something that you guys in more temperate climates with heat mats have probably used for your adult ball pythons. My ball pythons do not like these tubs. Number one, they're clear, so I have to blank off the sides and make them dark by putting extra paper in up the sides. And the tubs are simply too large. The snakes just go off food and refuse to feed until I actually put them back into the smaller size tubs. So out here in the tropics, guys, we all want the best for our snakes. I find my snakes actually prefer these smaller size tubs rather than the larger size tubs that you're probably used to. Ambient temperature is perfect for the animals. They don't need to thermoregulate. I keep the room very, very constant temperature. So it's hardly surprising that my snakes do actually thrive. They live underground in the tropics. It's not normal for them to have heat mats and to have to move from hot to cold in order to thermoregulate. They simply live underground in an environment that's perfect for them, and they live there for weeks or months at a time. So putting them in these size tubs does not put the animals at a disadvantage. And in fact, I find that if I use a hide in a tub of this size and give them an even smaller space to cram themselves into, they will go ahead and do so. Even an adult ball python will cram itself into a hide put inside one of these tiny tubs. So the smaller the space that they can get into, that's where they feel secure, and that's where they like to hang out. So I find these tubs absolutely perfect. So you will see me using tubs a little bit smaller than you're probably accustomed to. My racks are very, very simple systems. They have no heat in them, and that's the reason why. I don't actually need any depth from front to back in my tubs, because the snakes are not thermoregulating between a hot end and a cool end. There is no hot and cool end in my tubs. So I hope that makes things clear, guys. Very, very simple setup. It's simple, quick, efficient, and it works very, very well out here in the tropics, but a little bit different to the way you're probably accustomed to keeping your snakes yourself. But don't worry, my snakes are perfectly healthy. They eat just fine, they grow just fine, and they breed just fine. So there are many different ways to achieve the same thing. So don't worry about the very simple setup. That's the reason why the ambient temperature and humidity in this room is absolutely perfect for the snakes. No need to add any heat or humidity to the tub. Okay guys, so that's just a quick update on for you guys that are unfamiliar with this channel and the way that we keep snakes out here in the tropics. Very, very common setup, and an update on my breeding. So you'll see my breeding board here is actually going very, very well. So the system that I outlined, where I'm putting my males in with the females sequentially, or if they're in shed, putting them in a different week and then taking a break and feeding them, is working extremely well. And I will pair up my males more frequently out of sync if I think that I'm not getting sufficient locks. About every 3 weeks is what I normally pair. But I will do intermediate pairings. As you've seen in this video here, I did an intermediate pairing because of the shedding schedule of the females. And also my het lavenders at the bottom are not doing what they're supposed to. So I'm also pairing those up a little bit more frequently to try to encourage them to breed as well. Okay guys, so that's a Christmas update for everybody. For those that celebrate, Merry Christmas. For those that don't, Happy Holidays. I think everybody enjoys the time off anyway. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Richard.